From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
The Supreme Court under the microscope after an investigation by news outlet ProPublica revealed Justice Clarence Thomas did not disclose lavish trips he took funded by a billionaire benefactor. Now, some members of Congress are demanding better oversight. Plus, the fallout from the Dominion defamation lawsuit against Fox News and the near $800 billion settlement the conservative news outlet has agreed to pay. Our guest this week on Newsmakers, Dean of the Roger Williams University School of Law, Gregory Bowman. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Greg Bowman, Dean of the Roger Williams University School of Law. Good to have you in the program.
Thanks for having me.
I do want to pick your brain on those national headlines that I listed off the top there. But first, this is your first appearance on the program. You started at the law school in July 2020, and something, I guess a global pandemic might have gotten in the way of having this conversation. So it's long overdue. Glad to have you here. So why don't we start locally before we go nationally? Okay. Starting at the law school, what would be, the signature piece of the Bowman tenure at Roger Williams University School of Law?
Well, I came here because it's the only law school in the state. It has a proud tradition of public service and public interest. And what I want to do is build on the foundation that's been built by my faculty and dean colleagues before me to make the law school really a national model for being an impactful, public service-oriented, interdisciplinary, collaborative law school that focuses on the needs of the day, including public interest and matters of diversity and inclusion.
Well, that last one is a big one. Roger Williams embarked on a program that has gotten national attention in DEI. Why don't you briefly talk about that and how it shaped the curriculum at the school?
So in the summer of 2020, it was a summer of reckoning in the wake of the murder of George Floyd and other events. And so my colleagues and I, we got together and we talked about what we needed to do, and actually the students led the way. So our Black Law Student Association told us that what we needed to do was we needed to revise the curriculum, and we thought about it and we said, you're right. So what we did is we developed from scratch a brand new course that is now required. All law students at the law school take it, called Race and the Foundations of American Law. And we hired more people, new faculty to help lead that. We trained ourselves to teach it in a way that's very time intensive and focused. And so now all of our students take this course, which goes through various aspects of matters of diversity, equity, and inclusion in law. So there's an historical component. From the very first days of European settlement in the Americas, there were issues of race and how that has flowed through to the Constitution, through the Civil War, through Jim Crow, through civil rights, and today, what's happening today, and how can we as lawyers and leaders, and our students as leaders of the future, use this knowledge and make the world a better place moving forward.
Law school takes 3 years to get a JD anyway. Yes. Is this a course for first year?
Second year.
For second year, okay. Look, passing the bar is, to become an attorney, taking the bar exam, is not easy. And you, of course, want 100% of all graduates from Roger Williams University School of Law to pass the bar. That is not going to happen. I don't know of any school that has a bar pass rate of 100%. No. But getting students prepared to pass the test is a major area of focus for all law schools.
Yes.
What are you doing to increase the bar pass rate of your students, and how is the assessment evolving?
Assessment of the bar exam or our success?
Of the bar exam. How is the bar exam itself evolving moving forward?
Well, the bar exam is going to be transformed starting in 2025 from the current test, which focuses on multiple choice and short answer in particular subjects like contracts, criminal law, and so on, to an exam that is more interdisciplinary and is more reflective of what law students do.
Well, that's a big deal, right?
It is a big deal.
Yeah.
It is a big deal. So we're going to have to change the way that we teach, and that is going to be a big undertaking to prepare our students to both think critically and be able to apply those skills in a meaningful test that reflects what they will do in practice.
So that means by 2025, you have to change. Usually it's that course in the third year that students, ALR, I think it's called, that gets them prepared for the bar exam. That's going to have to be totally reshaped.
It's going to be reshaped, and we're in the process of doing it.
All right. So enrollment at the law school, do I have 180 students generally for a class for like first year students?
About right.
And do I have the annual tuition right about $43,000, maybe $1,600 in fees or so.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Tuition is always a major factor when choosing a law school. Where do you see that going in the next few years, and how do you balance that? I mean, you have to fund the law school.
You do. And what's really interesting about this generation of student, I think they're smarter than my generation, because they look at schools based on three main components for their decision. Number one is, where do they want to practice, and how far away is that? And then they also look at cost, and they look at what kind of law they want to do and what kind of place they want to be. So for us, our calling card is diversity and inclusion, practical skills training, public service, and public interest. And we are also the most affordable private accredited law school in the Northeast, all the way from Maine down to DC. And that's an important price point, and it should be, and we should pay attention to that, and students should pay attention to it too.
Do most graduates practice in Rhode Island?
That is the most common place, but we have people going all over the country, and we're recruiting people from all over the country.
Well, yeah, drive through the parking lot. You're going to see license plates from all over the place. All right, I do want to go national. Final question for you, kind of on the local area. So people at home understand, you came to us by the way of West Virginia. You were the dean of West Virginia University Law School.
Yes.
Rhode Island's different place than West Virginia, isn't it?
Different in some ways, and in other ways, it feels very much like home.
Why?
I mean, I like a smaller place that has a distinctive, unique culture and a proud heritage. And I really appreciate that differentness. And so Rhode Island certainly has fewer mountains and better seafood than West Virginia. But in many ways, it's a proud, hardworking place filled with people who are kind, who don't put on airs, who work hard, who are willing to earn their way. And that's frankly the kind of place that I want to be.
All right, let's look national here. As I said at the top of the show, the Supreme Court has been under the microscope lately, to say the least.
Yes.
ProPublica revealed that Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife took lavish trips funded by a GOP billionaire, gifts that appeared nowhere on his financial disclosure. A couple of questions here. First, are calls by some Democratic lawmakers to begin impeachment proceedings, is that just? Should that be on the table?
I think that's probably a non-starter. I think the more important thing to talk about is what sort of code of ethics should the court come up with and impose upon itself.
All right, why don't you answer that then?
You know, we should have reporting rules. Trust is hard won and it's easily lost. And we're seeing that happen to the court, the most important court in the nation. And they succeed because they are trusted and listened to, not because they have a big executive branch behind them, not because they have the power of the purse, not because they have any sort of military. They are listened to because they're respected. And the more you have questions about, why is the justice deciding this way? What's the conflict of interest here? That's deeply problematic. And I'm certain those conversations are being had internally at the court, but it's a very closed place, and we won't hear about it until they decide what to do.
Well, sure, and there's also a bill in Congress that would require the court to revisit or to, come up with a code of conduct. But but that bill would leave it to the court to police itself. Is that the right approach?
I think that really is the only approach. I mean, it is a separate branch of government. It is the judiciary, and it will be incumbent upon the court to do so. What I do think will be important is to have some sort of transparency so that is the accountability mechanism.
Yeah, well, I mean, so people understand, federal judges up to circuit courts, they have to file. I can go and look at Judge William Smith, who's a federal judge here in the U.S. District Court of Rhode Island. They have to file these disclosure forms. The public can look at them and see where that is, and it's a different standard for the Supreme Court. You're saying it should be the same.
For any organization, right? So anyone in charge of any organization should say the same rules that apply to all the people with whom I work and who work for me apply to me. And that's not happening here.
I want to touch on this because it made big headlines. The dean of the Stanford Law School, Jenny Martinez, wrote a letter to faculty and students earlier this semester, I believe, after students and at least one faculty member heckled and disrupted a speech by U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit Judge Kyle Duncan. He's a conservative Trump appointee.
Yes.
Martinez admonished the students and placed an associate dean on leave for the incident, writing, quote, "Our commitment to diversity and inclusion means that we must protect the expression of all views." Look, she's gotten some grief from some who feel she's protecting Duncan's controversial views. Where do you fall? Was she right?
She was absolutely right. She
Why?
was absolutely right. Well, the answer to speech with which you disagree is not to silence that speech. It is counter speech. And law schools need to be places of dialogue. I mean, she's absolutely right. If we are telling people that you can only come here and talk if we agree with what you say, then what kind of place of discourse and ideas are we? And the answer is we're not. We're an echo chamber.
So Judge Kyle Duncan, if a student group wanted to bring
Yes.
the judge onto campus at the law school, that would be,
Yes.
you're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. I do want to pivot to, because I teased at the top of the show, the Dominion Fox case, because again, a lot of headlines in the law world lately. And I should point out, you're not a tort expert. That was not where you taught when you were teaching in law school. And libel cases are tort cases or injury.
Right.
The idea of a defamation case is not only to recover monetary damages, but also to set the record straight, right? From what I could see, Fox News didn't cover the settlement really well, or if at all, when I clicked them on. So it's not clear that its viewers know what happened. But defamation cases are also supposed to act as a deterrent to others. In this case, knowingly lie about someone, and that lie causes harm, you're going to be held accountable for that. That's what these cases are, a big chunk of them are about. Does a settlement, without going to trial, with all the embarrassing testimony for Fox, do that? Or was $787 million a cost of doing business for Fox News?
I think the answer is it sort of gets to where they want it to be. Dominion gets it there, and it is the cost of doing business. I mean, Fox can absorb this.
Financially, Fox
financially,
News,
that's right.
And so, probably reputationally, maybe. We'll see.
Yes, probably.
Yeah.
So, but on the other hand, it usually when you have a settlement, all the terms are confidential, and neither party admits any wrongdoing.
So it was telling to you that the monetary figure came out.
Yes. And so the monetary figure came out, and Fox acknowledged that there were things that were said that were false. They didn't have to say so on their own broadcasts, but they did say so, and it's being covered elsewhere. So we have a compromise, right? And a compromise is defined as a result that makes everybody equally unhappy. So Dominion didn't get everything they wanted, but they got some. Fox got to walk away without having to worry about appeals and greater damages, and they have certainty and they move on.
Let's just dive into a tort class real quick, if we could, or maybe common law, I don't know. New York Times v. Sullivan set the actual malice standard for public officials and public figures and what's called a limited public figure. Actual malice, super hard to prove. I mean, the bar is very high. You have to either prove they knowingly lied, which it looked like Dominion was on the path to do that, or the one that's really usually focused on is reckless disregard for the truth, that they should have known, the reporters should have known that this information was untrue. They didn't do enough work to all of that, but still a very high bar and almost doesn't pass. And there's been calls, including by Roger Williams Law School's own professor, former dean David Logan, to revisit Sullivan. And there were some people, including myself, that was thinking, well, if the plaintiff prevailed in Dominion Fox, then it would send a message that, look, you don't have to revisit actual malice. Actual malice is you can reach that standard. When someone acts this badly, they will be held to account. Does a settlement still do that? Or because it didn't go to trial, because it wasn't vetted in a courtroom, are the calls to revisit Sullivan just?
I think that the fact that they settled for nearly half of what the lawsuit's stated damages were,
$1.6 billion,
is telling, right? So I think Fox settled because they knew that they were going to lose, and I do think that speaks volumes, and I do think the actual malice standard here, it's a pretty high bar, but what we have now in 2023 that we didn't have in the 70s is we have a much bigger paper trail. There's more to prove actual malice.
Text messages, emails,
tweets, you name it. So instant messages of other types. There was a treasure trove of a paper trail. There were smoking guns all over the place. And that was not the case 50 years ago. So
it's easier in what you're saying. In some ways, it's easier to get to the actual malice burden, if you will.
And in some ways, some folks weren't listening to the lawyers who say, don't say something in writing that you don't mean and you're not willing to back up.
All right, we got to go to a break. And, since we're talking about New York Times v. Sullivan, I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up David Logan. You and I attended a retirement celebration this week for the former law school dean. He continued to be a professor at the school. He was actually a guest on this program where we discussed New York Times v. Sullivan. As you can tell, I disagreed with him on that, but it was, I've truly enjoyed getting to know him, and he's a tremendous guy who had a momentous career. What did he mean to the law school?
He was a transformational leader, and that was the word that kept getting brought up time after time when we celebrated him the other night. He came into a school that was relatively new and people wanted it to succeed but weren't quite sure where it was going, and 11 years later, when he left, it had a national reputation, it had a great student body, it had a dynamic faculty that was nationally known for its scholarship and teaching, and that is the foundation that Michael Yonoski, the dean before me, and I have built on, and that is it's the kind of impact that very few people get to make in their careers.
Greg Bowman, Dean of the Roger Williams University School of Law. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, when we come back, John Marion from Common Cause Rhode Island. Lawmakers are making a push to make Rhode Island government more transparent. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. I'm joined on the second half by the Executive Director of Common Cause Rhode Island, John Marion. John, good to have you back.
Thanks.
Common Cause and other open government organizations, including the one I'm a board member of, the New England First Amendment Coalition, are supporting a bill that would amend the state's Access to Public Records Act, which is the state law that governs what documents and records the public can see and what they can't if it falls under an exemption. Give a couple of examples, if you could, just to kick off the conversation of what the bill would do if passed.
Yeah, so the bill is really sort of a potpourri of different changes to the state's FOIA law. The biggest part of it actually deals with police records, because police records, have a special kind of place in government, and so
they're the most often requested record, quite frankly, from my experience.
And there have been a lot of disputes that have reached the courts over the years about police records. So it makes a bunch of changes. For the first time, it opens the door to folks getting 911 tapes. Rhode Island has a little bit of an exception there, where unlike quite a few states, we don't allow any 911 tapes to be public. This would open the door under limited circumstances to that. It would help get the public access to internal affairs reports. There's some games that were sort of played with the decision by the Attorney General about which internal affairs reports could be made public only if they were the initial complaint was made by the public, not by the police. This would sort of open the door to all internal affairs reports being public documents. Then it has a lot that has nothing to do with police records, increases fines for public bodies that don't comply, and a bunch of mechanisms that hopefully make it easier and cheaper for the public to get records. It lowers the price of a public record from 15 cents a page to 5 cents a page. It makes the documents that are at a public meeting, if we go to a public meeting, those documents legally are public documents, but it actually requires the public body to put them with the agenda. So a whole host of changes that we think just put the thumb on the scale for transparency.
And it would make emails to and from elected officials, except with constituents, I believe, a public record. Look, you brought up the fines. And the governor's executive counsel, Claire Richards, who has represented several administrations and probably has every APRA exemption memorized at this point, wrote an opposition letter to the legislation, and she specifically cited 5 provisions of the bill. But one of them that she opposed was raising the fines, as you said, for willful and knowing violations of the law from $2 to $10 grand, or reckless violations of the law from $1 to $3 grand. Richard says that this will just penalize taxpayers. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, she's not wrong in a sense that, the fine doesn't personally attach to the person who denies the record or breaks the law. So, if the town council president doesn't give us a record, he doesn't or she doesn't reach into their pocket and pay us, the town does. But nonetheless, they're the stewards of the taxpayers' money. So maybe they'll lose their reelection because the people will say you're wasting our money. We have seen too often public bodies sort of wantonly disregarding the law, not really facing serious consequences. We want to up the consequences.
Well, I looked, by the way. Do you know where the fine goes?
Yeah, it goes in the general treasury.
It goes into the general fund.
Yeah.
So you're just moving taxpayer money from one bucket to another. So
exactly.
Anyway, look, we had the Attorney General on Newsmakers last week, and we talked about the antiquated way some agencies require people to send in public records. A short clip from that. Take a listen.
There has been this sense that there's a ruling from our office that allows entities to require that APRA requests be made only by fax. We can't find that ruling, and if that were to come before us today, we would rule otherwise, that we don't believe that that's within the scope of the statute.
Well, there is a ruling at your office under a different Attorney General that said that towns don't have to accept email APRA requests.
Right.
It seems a little silly in 23, doesn't it?
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
And I think if that came before us today, there would be a different outcome.
I'll start writing the challenge now. You brought up,
Well, you may not need to, because we may issue an advisory opinion to that effect.
All right, well, look out for that. And sure enough, a few days after that interview, he did just that. He issued an advisory opinion allowing email submissions for public records. Seems to make sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a common sense decision by the Attorney General, who has the enforcement power over the statute. So good for him. There are some other things, though, he could do that we're going to the legislature trying to get them to do it because, we're not getting the decisions out of his office every time necessarily that we want.
Well, we talked a lot about that on that show and how long it takes to get a decision back. And, I was going to move on, but since you're there, we should make so people understand that if people want to challenge a denial for records, the primary avenue of appeal, not the only, but is to file a complaint with the Attorney General's office. One thought I had on that is one of the AG's primary jobs is as the state's law firm. They represent the state and state agencies when they get sued. Yet they are then supposed to be a neutral arbiter when it comes to deciding on whether the state violated APRA. Is that a conflict of interest?
Yeah, I mean, we've always believed that, particularly as the chief law enforcement officer,
yes.
That office is calling balls and strikes around police records, as I said earlier, often the most controversial records out there. And there seems to be kind of a built-in conflict of interest, not necessarily with this AG, but with the office more generally. Other states like Connecticut say, let's give it to a truly neutral body. So they have basically a public commission that calls the balls and strikes.
In Massachusetts, it goes to the Secretary of State's office. Okay, let's shift gears. We have a few minutes left here, John. We're waiting on the governor to announce his picks for the Cannabis Control Commission. By law, I believe he was supposed to have done that by now. But that law, the Cannabis Control Act, states the Speaker of the House can give recommendations to the governor for that commission. You oppose that. How come?
Yeah, so people may not remember because it was 19 years ago, but the people of Rhode Island, and Common Cause was one of the groups involved in this, passed some amendments to our state constitution around the separation of powers. Really, the main driving thing behind that was that legislators were appointing people to commissions like the CRMC and others, and the people didn't want that. So we changed the Constitution, giving the governor exclusive authority to appoint to these executive boards and commissions. Now comes along this new, incredibly powerful board, 3-person board, and the way the law is written is essentially the speaker gets one of the picks. There is an out in the way it's written. I mean,
I just play devil's advocate. It's just a recommendation by law.
But it would be at the governor's sort of peril that he doesn't pick from that list given to him by the speaker, because the speaker controls a lot of the priorities that the governor wants, particularly
including
the state budget.
Yes.
And so, this governor has indicated he's going to pick off the speaker's list, and they're doing due diligence on the 3 names submitted there. But it just sort of violates the spirit of what the people wanted when they passed the separation of powers amendments, because who do we hold accountable, right? The picks are late. Do we complain to McKee? Do we complain to the speaker? Whose pick is that? You lose some democratic accountability when you split it that way.
So you'll be watching those picks closely.
Yeah, we'll be watching the picks closely, and we'll be seeing, not only the picks, but the decisions that this commission makes, right? These marijuana commissions this is going to be incredibly powerful. There has been corruption in a lot of places where marijuana has been legalized, including Massachusetts and Fall River and California. So there's a lot of potential for problems here.
Let's see if we can do this in 30 seconds. You ready? I talked to Dean Bowman on the first half about the Justice Clarence Thomas controversy. What do you think of this bill that would essentially allow self-policing of the High Court?
Yeah, my organization actually uncovered nationally some of Ginny Thomas's income in 2011, which required Justice Thomas way back then to amend his financial disclosure. So this has been an ongoing problem. Like, this is not a new problem. It's just getting worse and worse. And now with the Gorsuch revelations this week,
10 seconds.
Yeah, self-policing is never optimal, but from a separation of powers standpoint,
that's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah, he has a point.
All right, John Marion from Common Cause, Rhode Island. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week on Newsmakers.